Good Saturday morning, everyone. Or is it afternoon? No, it's still morning. So good to see you again and be heard and be seen, I guess is the more appropriate term. And it is now the 25th of July, Julie's month, and the month of my birth, by the way. I was born in this month. I'm not going to tell you what day, but anyway, and I'm years old, and it's like I've always said, I'm 17, trapped in this body, and continually trying to escape. I keep trying to get out, but it hasn't worked yet. Maybe our guest, Bob Sullivan, can explain to me, how do I escape this?
Looking for that same secret.
Are you?
And I was born in this month too. So
were you?
Birthday.
Oh, well, thanks, and you too. Are we not there yet?
No, it was last Monday.
That's
July 20th.
Oh, that's weird. I'll confess, mine was the 19th.
Still a Cancer, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That is weird. We're one day apart in a few years. I thought he's older than me. Since I'm only 17, so. Oh, yeah, there you go. Thank you, sir. Anyway, hey, good to be with you all. I want to begin this morning by, again, welcoming our guest, Bob Sullivan, who is running for insurance commissioner of the state of Oklahoma, and, of course, my friend, sidekick, mentor, and all of the above, David Van Rissingham. Hey, quickly, I don't know, we have to do this kind of, but Bob, are you a soccer fan at all? Do you know anything about soccer?
I have learned enough about it through my son.
We've got to kick him up. I can't hear him.
Oh, my apologies.
There you go, Bob. Welcome.
There we go.
Welcome, Bob. Bob Sullivan.
Great to be here. My soccer experience and expertise comes purely through watching my son learn to play the game and having some great coaches who explained offsides to me. Bless their hearts and their patience. That took a while. But obviously with the World Cup, just having wrapped up, we watched a lot more soccer in our household than probably the previous historical time ever.
Yeah,
right.
It was a great year.
I don't think you're alone. I think many people, it broke all records. Now, of course, they added the double amount of another 32 games. It's 64 games they had now teams versus the 32 before.
And I think part of it, choosing North America as a venue, so many stadiums. When you award it to, say, Spain, well, okay, you might have Madrid, you might have, Barcelona, but you won't have that many stadiums.
Right. Of that size.
Yeah. And we were willing to share it. I mean, remember, England made it to the Final Four by beating Mexico in Mexico City. Mm-hmm. That was huge. Yeah. Of course, nobody has the number of massive stadiums we do.
Of course not.
And so, but here's the interesting thing I've seen. Argentina used to be the darling of everyone. And of course, Messi was the guy. But in the last week, actually, I think it's been growing through this tournament. They've been exposed or attacked or both in many ways on the field and off the field, that as dirty players. Anyone that saw that final would have to say, what is going on with these people? They look like a Mexican B-League because the fouls that were taking place, and ridiculous fouls, and then arguing with the referee about it and all. But here's the broader thing that has happened, and that is the exposure of Argentina as a racist nation. I don't know if any of you have been reading any of that. Have you read any of that?
I've heard that stuff.
Well,
but they got to go back 80 years to make their case.
Well, you're talking about the Nazis going. Yeah. No, it's broader than that. What they did even before, they used to. Have you ever wondered why Brazil is next door and Brazil is probably 60% black?
Yeah, they're a Portuguese colony.
Mexico has a lot of black people, even though we don't know about it, but they have totally entirely black. And there's reasons, and we don't take the time today. But what Argentina because their entire team was white. Basically, I think they had one guy on the bench, one black guy on the bench, a token on the bench. Nah, just kidding.
When you say white, that includes Hispanics.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're more white. You don't have the Indio Hispanics on there. Anyway, to continue here, what has been discovered is they literally drove the black Argentinians out, and then through a breeding thing or whatever, in other words, it's a purposeful thing.
Kind of like the WNBA is doing to white women like Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham.
But the reverse, the reverse of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's, and so, cause I always wondered, I mean, you have to wonder, why did the Nazis after World War II choose Argentina, that country, to go to? And because I don't know if they added to it, helped to it, or were drawn there because of that.
They were one of their few allies. They did not have very many allies.
Right, true. But the policies, I think, helped something. But anyway, that's just something I discovered in the last 2 weeks. And all of a sudden, there's and now the last couple of days, an anti-Messi campaign has been going on because they're showing.
But keep in mind, from the same journalists who think that Caitlin Clark is a distraction that is bad for the WNBA.
No, this is different. This is different.
It's not the same. It's still pushing out by color.
Well, you get to be the witness, and
I didn't bring my popcorn.
I know. You thought you were coming about you, but it's about us. We do this often and usually, but no, there's a distinction, and after I'm sure there are. I won't take Robert's time here or our audience's time.
Stay tuned for part 2.
Yeah, we'll have to dig into this more because it is an interesting thing because I didn't understand it myself, but Argentina has gone from the darling of the world and the fans, and they have fallen considerably. So just to say that, and now Ronaldo again is the guy, even though Messi was. So it's an inside soccer deal. So anyway, as we said, our guest Bob Sullivan here joining us again, and we enjoyed it last time. The election is coming up, the runoff, in about a month from now. Yep. A little under. But I have you again, Bob, and so has transpired since we last.
Sure. So since we were here last, we had the June 16th primary, and was just thrilled with the results. We won, came out victorious in that June 16th primary, garnered 37% of the vote, and obviously that means we're going to a runoff. So August 25th, I'm in a runoff with former Senator and Representative Marty Quinn,
the pride of Arkansas. Sorry, that was me. That wasn't Bob.
You told me you were going to go there. Keeping your word.
Yeah.
And so since then, obviously, we've been very busy with the campaign. We took a few days after June 16th, and it was the place where we got married 14 years ago. And
what is your anniversary date?
June 29th.
Oh, okay. I was just going to say this is getting crazy if it was close to mine. It was the 4th. So we've got some distance there. Same month, but
finally putting some distance between our commonalities here. But since we've been back, I mean, obviously from pretty much July 4th weekend on, we've been burning and churning throughout the state of Oklahoma, just doing what we were doing. What made us successful in the primary, in my opinion, that's just meeting Oklahomans, getting our message out, and doing all the campaign stuff, and still holding down a day job, and still working with clients in the insurance sector. July 1 is usually a pretty big renewal date in my world for a lot of commercial policies, and it was again this year. So fewer scars than some of the previous years, but it was good.
Right. Now, you are primarily a commercial, right? That's more your background, correct? Yeah. Do you do P&C or personal lines?
So, yeah, we still have a personal line, a small handful of personal lines accounts, usually policies that we write for my commercial business owners.
Right, yeah. That's
earlier in my career, I had a much larger book of home and auto, personal lines insurance, but, really, finding niches and finding areas of specialization in an industry like
That's
insurance
true.
that can be so broad is valuable. And my background was always from the commercial space.
Now, there's some nice ranches and ag operations out there. You've got some of them too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Had the opportunity and the honor of working with farm and ranch policies, farm and ranch owners. That market in my world, in the independent side, kind of dried up for a period of time. But we still do a few hobby farms, gentleman farms, animal mortalities.
To the east of you, you've got a pretty healthy Amish community. Do they reach out to you for help? Or?
No, haven't.
They kind of self-insure, don't they?
They do. They do. They're I think insular in a good way. They understand their risk and they understand management of it, and they're not under any compulsion to buy the coverage. It's
tough though. Good friend of mine was vice president of the Bank of Commerce there in Shoto. And he said, the banking regulars, when Dodd-Frank rules hit, examiners came in and like, you have no IDs, no driver's license, and they're just really like, oh my God, here it comes.
Right.
And he says, gentlemen, he says, do you understand the Amish? He says, do you understand that you're attacking this? Your rules are an affront and attack on their religious values. As soon as he said that, they packed it. He says, they don't pose for pictures. They shut down everything. So get the heck out of here.
Right.
The feds knew better than to pick a fight with Amish.
I'm relieved to hear
that. I don't know what you have to deal with.
I haven't had a lot of opportunities or needs.
Well, yeah, because they self-insure.
They do.
What I'd heard is, a guy fails as a farmer, they'll bail him out. Public scorn and reproach.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
they're a community.
They are. Yeah. Absolutely. They take care of one another and they hold one another to account.
Yeah.
And that's part
of it. There we go.
It.
Now we even got to Amish religion.
Bob, you have a wife. How many children?
About 12. I turned 9 back in June. And it's a lot of fun. We were at the basketball gym in Jenks last night for 8:30 p.m. basketball games on a Friday night in the summer, and it's great that even despite the busyness of campaigning and running a business, making that time and I've held Friday night basketball sacred on my campaign calendar. I'm not doing events.
That's your son or your daughter that plays basketball?
My son. My daughter, bless her heart, we've done gymnastics, we've done golf, we've done a lot of individual sports. Team sports have not interested her much. So she'll come to these games with 3 books from the Tulsa County Library, and she'll have 2 of them read by the time we get to halftime.
Oh, you poor guy.
She's
have a daughter that likes to read. How can you imagine?
I want to ask.
I hit the lottery, Eddie. What can I say?
So your wife has been trained as functioning in...
So yeah, she is in her career has been a CLEAT certified mental health trainer.
Okay,
educating
that means helping law enforcement
right
on psychiatric issues.
Correct. How to interact and interface with individuals in our community that are experiencing a mental health crisis or in a state of mental illness.
I may have worked with her because they bring a lot of us from NAMI, National Alliance Mental Illness, to there to tell family stories to help law enforcement bring balance to their training. And then you've caught the bug from her because you've gotten involved in community giving back and some of those nonprofit things that government, we don't want them to do.
Sure.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's working. Community service has always been a big part of my life. I mean, we were talking before the show about, our history, our common history in the Boy Scouts. And I was an Eagle Scout, and obviously that involved a lot of community service up in Veneta and in the Bartlesville area where I grew up and scouted. And in my professional career, I wanted to get back into that kind of a giving mindset. And so I've joined and have been a member and board member for numerous nonprofits throughout the Tulsa metro area.
I'm sure your wife drags you along to a few more.
Actually, I think I drug her.
Is that right?
Nonprofit service. She was a public school teacher.
Oh,
She taught fourth grade at Union for the early part of our marriage. And, when that was starting to wear on her and the burnout was clear and
that'll
onset, we looked into the nonprofit community and she really fell in love with that. And obviously, that's transpired into a mental health focused work for the last several years. But yeah, served on the board and was board president for Youth Services of Tulsa, Youth at Heart, one that does after school activities for young people throughout Tulsa public schools. Modus, which provides removes transportation barriers for a number of people in the Tulsa metro area, and Clubhouse Tulsa, which was a clubhouse, a psychosocial place for people with a diagnosed mental illness.
Plays a huge role.
It was tremendous. And I had a family member, a cousin who struggled with schizophrenia and suffered from that. And she's in heaven now and has been for a number of years. But the Clubhouse model was everything that she wanted. Yeah. Everything that she expressed to her therapist for many, many years, that feeling of community and belonging and ownership of something. Was what she always wanted. And she got that in the end toward the latter years of her life. But she was in McAllister and clubhouses weren't down there.
Well, think about it. For the people who deal with, they need help. Maybe the caregiver, because I'm a big believer in empowering families to care for their loved one and give them whatever tools they need. But if the breadwinner, the only other caregiver at home, has to go work a day job, somebody's got to pay the bills.
Sure.
Do you want that person struggling to recover from schizophrenia or whatever, psychosis, bipolar, whatever? Do you want them just roaming the streets, or do you want them to get engaged, maybe get some training, connect with people, build some friendships, all of that stuff? And that's what your organization, now you didn't found it. It's been a long
No, it's international.
I remember getting a tour back in the old 15th Street campus they had. But anyway, so I think that's essential in finding leadership in the state. And so I'm going to brag on you, because you didn't come in. In fact, when you came in last time, it was just kind of by surprise we found that. And to me, that says more about you than all of your insurance licenses.
Bob, nevertheless, you're running for insurance commissioner.
Correct.
Yeah.
And give us a little background on what caused you to decide that you want to run for insurance commissioner.
Yeah. So you spend 16 years of your career working alongside business owners and homeowners throughout the state. And you see and feel through those face-to-face meetings how much people in our state are struggling with the affordability of insurance and how they're struggling with the claims process with an insurance policy and how difficult and sometimes traumatic that can be for people. So that really laid a lot of the groundwork. But ultimately, I'm a son. My mother lives in the house that I grew up in. Up at Grand Lake. She wants to live out the remaining days of her life with that Oklahoma sunset over Duck Creek forever till God calls her home. And every year we have to have the conversation about whether or not she can afford to remain in that home and afford the cost of maintaining and home ownership because of things like her homeowner's insurance and the way that goes up. Luckily, she has a great agent for a son. And even though I'm not a USAA licensed agent, I know how to play that game and work the system so that we can keep the costs down in a real way instead of just jacking up our deductibles and self-insuring. But seniors across the state are being put in a position where they have to consider whether or not insurance is going to kick them out of their house.
Yeah, sure. Now, here's one of the things that I'm going to ask you about, and I can't remember if we discussed this last time, but I remember I did some research to try to figure out why is our insurance so much higher than the states that have hurricanes, floods, windstorm, hail, everything like Texas.
Absolutely.
Texas, where our big deal is tornadoes and hailstorms.
They got flooded last week.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is, why are their rates lower or equal to ours when? And then I decide, well, wait a minute, let me see. Because as you know, insurance is about sharing risk.
Yep.
The more people you have, the less the insurance. And then I saw that Texas has 32.4 million people and we have 4 million. I think we're 4.2, 4.8 million people. So in Texas, they can spread that risk. Now, not everybody in Texas is insured, just like in Oklahoma, not everybody is insured. But nevertheless, that ratio is pretty much going to stay intact. And so when you're able to spread the risk with 32 million people versus the 4 million people, it tends to be able to. But the other thing that kind of bothered me, that I kind of suspect, I'm not sure this is, but I think in some cases, the other insurance companies, or the insurance companies in general, like to put the burden, use that as an excuse to put more of a burden on us. Mm-hmm. Now, as insurance commissioner, what authority and ability will you have to be able to rein some of that in and keep because we don't want it to be like Florida where the companies start fleeing the state, correct, right? That's the opposite problem. You get too tough. Oh, we just won't write anything in Oklahoma. And then the few companies that are left have to charge more because they more of the risk. So how do you navigate that?
Sure. So, oh man, that you asked me about a 2-hour question and we've got a short amount of time, but ultimately the state legislature did us a favor during their last session. Passed a bill, Governor Stitt signed it into law, and changed the way that that insurance companies file their rates in the state of Oklahoma. We were a use and file state, which meant insurance companies could use whatever rates they wanted and just provide a casual notice to the insurance department that, hey, Eddie's zip code's going to get 25% more rate, and we're going to move on now. Now we're going to be put in a position and put insurance carriers in the position where they're going to have to justify those rates before we as the insurance department, insurance commissioner allows them to take effect.
So you become much like the Corporation Commission does to utilities.
Correct. Yeah, that it's going to be a more similar process to that. And it really is a similar process to states like Arkansas and Texas. Kansas has a bit more punitive and more restrictive filing system because Kathleen Sebelius was their insurance commissioner before she was governor. And, Democrats never met something they didn't want to overregulate. Yeah. But still, nonetheless, it's a modernization of the filing system for Oklahoma's insurance department. And I think it's very positive. We are going to have to, in my opinion, hire a state actuary. We've been contracting out actuarial services for years now. Yeah. We're going to have our own independent Oklahoma actuary to manage that process.
Help me out on this. The risk of pressing too hard is we'll have less options in the market. They'll decide.
California.
There you go. But it's important to the voters that you understand that too. That you thread the needle, you do, fine line.
Absolutely.
Get the people the best they can get without jeopardizing it.
Absolutely. And we've certainly had our share of market disruptive events in my career. Pre-workers' comp reform, we had carriers fleeing the state for various and sundry reasons. Some because it was so unprofitable, some of them went bankrupt. But what I noticed throughout that process, and it wasn't a fun process, replacing large tranches of business in the comp space, but carriers responded, and we're already starting to see some insurance companies that I think were sitting on the sidelines for the last several years re-engage due to the pending litigation against State Farm and Allstate. Consumers are less happy with the idea of staying there and are looking at their options. So I'm talking with agents across the state, one in Stillwater just last week, saying that a company that we both represent that has been dormant is back in the game with fire and vigor, and the rates are great, and they're going gangbusters with
you care to say who?
Sure. It's Foremost Insurance, which is a subsidiary.
I signed with them. Yeah.
And they're seeing some real positive outcomes for their policyholders over there in Stillwater. And, it's that always kind of comes and goes. Someone will get hot for a 6-month period or a year period. And, sometimes that flows quickly.
Let me say, I have a funny story about Foremost because my first 15 years in the industry was with farmers. Sure. And so we started writing our, what you call standard fire policies, which are not your better ones, prima business. And so we were having a hard time. Well, they decided to allow us to write with Foremost.
Mm-hmm.
And Foremost, I remember we were at a state convention down in Oklahoma City, about 500 farmers agents from around the state. And so they announced we're going to start using Foremost for a non-standard, it's a non-standard, non-standard homes. And so I'll never forget this because the guy goes up and says, so yeah, you come in, if you quote a house, you call up, we bind it. Somebody raises their hand. What about this?
What does bind mean?
Confirm the coverage.
Confirm
begin the policy.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So anyway, and so how about photos? You call us, we bind it. That's it. No photos.
Wow.
What about? And the guy was just going nuts. How many times I have to say you quote it, call us up, we bind it right there. Nothing. I mean, they weren't taking photos, no inspections. That was the other one. And they were profitable. I mean, they were making money, and so these agents just couldn't because farmers. And not only did they have us inspected, then they had this thing where, like, if you're an agent in Broken Arrow and I'm in Tulsa and you're in Jenks, they would have me inspect your places, and then you have to go to all of his.
Oh, sure, because there's conflict of interest.
Yeah. Oh, we don't have
want
anything.
Your commission.
Yeah, we don't have anything else to do.
Yeah.
But check up on you, and you check up on me.
Oh, they make you hate each other
in your spare time.
Well, not. Yeah, yes, spare time. Yeah. It wasn't. No, we didn't hate because we knew the company was doing this.
Yeah.
But anyway, so. And then, and farmers had been very profitable, but it just started getting worse and worse and worse.
Right.
And so it's interesting that sometimes, like, these non-standard companies are very profitable, where the guys who are doing the heavy underwriting, it's almost like the actuaries and the underwriters have to find some reason to justify their jobs and so forth. So anyway, but that's an interesting concept, and I'm glad that companies are starting to come back that we've driven out of the state.
There's been some relieving points and some data points in the market. I mean, obviously playing more in the commercial space, we work with some fairly sizable property schedules, tens and 20s, hundreds of millions of dollars of property values under a single policy. And when you have that kind of a structure, you're very much aware of what reinsurance costs, because the insurance company that's on the policy, on the deck, the name of that company, they're ceding off a percentage of that risk to the reinsurance market.
What is reinsurance?
It's really just a risk sharing
umbrella.
Yeah. So let's say it's $100 million program. The insurance company's name that's on the policy, they really can only retain 50 million of that risk. Mm-hmm. They'll go to a reinsurer to pick up the top 50.
Okay. Because that's what's in insurance. The reason we don't have, say, a local Oklahoma only insurance option, they need to mitigate their risk by having just as many houses up in the mountains, up in the North Prairie, in eastern United States, because they won't all have disaster at one time. If we just had an Oklahoma company and we had a really big tornado,
or hailstorm.
Or hailstorm, they would default and nobody's claims will be paid.
Absolutely. Yeah. Your geographic spread of risk is too tight.
Because I remember back in the early 90s, State Farm, who I'd been with for 30 years, eventually, after 10 years, they said, we're not writing any more homeowners in Oklahoma. And I went into my agent and said, well, is it just not profitable? It's just, no, we're actually have more of the market here. And we need to wait for the rest of the country to catch up because we're putting ourselves in a vulnerable place.
Correct.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, they had some issues on that with losses, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, I mean, from a regulatory standpoint, we also want to couple that greater oversight with a recruitment effort to bring insurance carriers that aren't writing in the state of Oklahoma here. Cincinnati, Amica, and auto owners are the three most prolific ones in my brain for whatever reason, that don't write in the state, that have tremendous satisfaction ratings, customer satisfaction ratings with their claims department. And I can tell you from competing against them in other states, because I don't just write in Oklahoma, their rates are phenomenal. And when I was an underwriter back in my Hanover days, competing against Cincinnati was a non-starter. If I saw that they were quoting or on the account to begin with, I'd tell the agent that submitted it, I'm sorry, I'm closing my file. I don't stand a snowball's prayer in Hades yeah. of getting to their rates, even with every bit of credit and deviation that I could muster. So yeah. Companies like that don't operate in Oklahoma for various reasons.
Well, you'd said, and Eddie was talking about Foremost. I happened to get an unsolicited bid from a Foremost mm-hmm. person, and I right away, Eddie, is this legit? And yeah, and then I said, can you compete? He says, I don't think I can touch it. Right. So I signed with the policy in March. 4th of July, some kids shooting fireworks caught my garage on fire. Fortunately, I put it out, but about $5,000 damage. In November, I'm cleaning out my garage one weekend, and all of a sudden it stopped. So I got all these tubs out in the yard. Well, Foremost sends a drone over my property and decides I got too much clutter. A firefighter couldn't put out my house fire if he wanted to. That was and they canceled me. So wow. I called my agent, and Eddie knows him, good friend Eddie's. And he said, yeah, get that cleaned up. And I said, how do you guys even know? He said, we didn't let anybody back here. It was a drone. So they're using drones now, and they're not knocking on the door. No. And so, I cleaned everything up. He came out, took pictures, got me reinstated. But I always thought Foremost was one of the brands that farmers owned, Farmers mm-hmm. Insurance. So anyway, I'm good. I'm back, but I'm not getting that same renewal rate that that had captured me.
Sure.
So to me, there's a little bait and switch going on in the industry.
Yeah, there's always that. Most companies have a discount for the first year that they write your policy. To try and be an attraction,
okay,
and then that goes away, and that's
so it's like a direct TV cable satellite where your first year, but you didn't realize you signed a 3-year contract. Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah. What gets me on those is that you sign up for a package. Mm-hmm. If you add or deduct anything from that package, your rate instantly doubles.
He's speaking from experience.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He got burned out.
You add HBO or you take away HBO, and boom, all of a sudden, you don't have the package we wanted.
They're weasels.
And now, that's a, but anyway, staying on the insurance thing. Yeah. Now, let me ask you, what authority do you or will you have as insurance commissioner regarding rates, regarding certain underwriting issues that may come up? So what is the insurance commission's actual involvement in those type of things?
So talking about things like terms and conditions and underwriting processes, certainly the first and foremost job is to make sure that they're not unfair or unduly discriminatory to a given class of people, whether they be Black, Hispanic, white, anything along those lines. Old, young. And I think the old and young topic is one that we're going to have to do some investigation in. But there is a tremendous amount of authority from a market conduct standpoint. Now, market conduct investigations require market conduct complaints to the department. And that's something that has come up a number of times on the campaign trail. People don't want to rock the boat and don't want to, go to the regulator enough times to really give us the authority or the reason to do an investigation. That's something that I think we need to do a better job of promoting as the insurance department. This isn't going to come back and bite you. You shouldn't be fearful of retaliation if you turn in your insurance company for something that you deem to be wrong. We can't investigate what we're not aware of in an official capacity. But beyond that, making sure that affordability is going to be the main concern, frankly, and how we manage that risk as a state on a macroeconomic level is something I'm very invested in. The OK Ready fortified building program is a way we're doing that at the state level right now, encouraging better building materials and construction practices for homes. I think we have missed the opportunity in the past, and I know this has been tried before, to set up something for Oklahomans to have like a health savings account for disaster and deductible exposure. So that I keep calling it the deductible and disaster savings account, DSA, whatever we're going to acronym it up for. But having a way that, say, your employer could offer that as an employee benefit and contribute pre-tax dollars into your savings account on your behalf. It grows in a market investment vehicle, tax-free. And then when the hailstorm comes or when you need to replace your roof on your own accord, those funds are available tax-free out of that. So you can make proactive decisions instead of reactive ones. Or in the case of the deductible scenario, you're actually funding the risk that you're taking by carrying whatever deductible you have, because it's self-insurance. That's what a deductible is. It's your self-insured portion of the risk. And many people have very high deductibles in our state with zero mechanism of funding it when the disaster occurs. And that's bad risk management.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, I told you the story of the drone flies over, decides, they're going to cancel me.
Yep.
The reason, first of all, I thought, fine, they don't want my business, I'll go somewhere else. Right. Well, with insurance, it's not so cut and dry, because if one company cancels you, my experience is they run in a pack. They ask, have you ever been canceled? If somebody else cancels you, we don't want you. They don't even want to hear the details. Yep. And so to a consumer, if you have a chance to appeal, an insurance company wants to cancel, you better take that appeal.
Right.
Because when I went to shop quotes, I got some great numbers. But if all of a sudden I try to do it again under the new conditions, I'm in a high risk pool and didn't know it.
Right.
So could you speak in greater detail to the consumers? And is there any hope for something better for a consumer?
Sure. Yeah, I think, the concept of insurance portability has been an ongoing one in the health insurance space. I mean, we have the HIPAA Act for that reason. That's part of the reason we have HIPAA, but having that same kind of an attitude towards property and casualty insurance is something that I'm invested in. Most homeowners policies involve something called a CLUE report, which is basically a background check for your insurance activity.
Computer linked underwriting.
Exchange.
Yeah.
There we go. We'll get that acronym. We love acronyms in insurance. It's a fatal flaw. Yeah. But
that's why I'm here. But say, what does that mean?
Right. Yeah. But those reports are fairly extensive, and they go back almost to the beginning of time. Whenever you first bought insurance,
we used to have a 1 year and a 3 year loss experience thing. Now they're going back 5-6 years.
Well, Eddie, I asked you to write me a policy. And that, 4th of July fireworks fire, that was at that time not quite 4 years. Mm-hmm. And I said, I can't write it until you've had 5 years of no claims.
Until that old claim falls off the record.
And now it's 5 years.
Yep.
So,
and I
some
think,
is 6. It goes up to 6.
I've always felt that that's an overly punitive system. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we've got intent to investigate and hopefully curb. Things happen. And frankly, I'm a believer in grace and the power of people to change and learn from their mistakes. And I think if we can get Oklahomans in a more proactive risk management frame of mind, that will take away a lot of that moral hazard that I think insurance carriers were so concerned about, that they wanted that 5-year CLUE report as part of their underwriting. It's a little ambitious to say, you've got to change the hearts and minds of insurance consumers, because we've seen this attitude for many years, Eddie, that a lot of people look at insurance policy as a maintenance policy for their roof.
Yep. And,
every 3 to 5 years, I'm getting a new roof because the hailstorm's going to blow through and insurance is going to pay for it. And it's not going to hurt me one little bit. And that is a contributing factor to where we sit in the marketplace right now. It's been the frustration of many agents that I've talked with throughout my career, many insurance companies and underwriters throughout my career. And, but I don't think it's an unfair expectation for Oklahomans who pay premiums month in and month out, year in and year out, to expect some benefit from the policy that they pay into. But I've always been the believer that the best claim is the one you don't have.
Yeah.
And if we can put roofscapes in a place where they're less likely to suffer damage from common wind and common hail, then I think we'll be in a better space.
Yeah, I just had one that I was writing this last week, and the thing now is, do you have a class 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 roof?
Right.
And so now, when you get a roof replaced, you may want to ask, what class shingle is this?
I did.
Yeah,
I just got a new roof July 3rd.
Right, and you get a bigger discount for having.
You guys are insurance nerds. You know that stuff.
Well,
the rest
that's
of
why
us
I do want to. I never do this, but this gives us an opportunity to let people know what's available out there. Now, the roof is going to cost you a bit more, but in the end, it'll help. You'll get money back through your insurance premiums, and it'll be more hail resistant. That's the whole purpose of this being hail resistant. We've concentrated here on the property and casualty. Let's move to like health insurance.
All right.
This is a big deal because back when I was on KFAQ years ago, came up the exchanges.
Right.
And Mr. Mulready, that's one of the big exchanges we had about
exchanged on the exchange.
Yeah, we exchanged.
I'm glad he's a good-natured guy.
Yeah, and I remember former state rep David Brombaugh, one of my best friends. Anyway, before he passed away, he would set up these meetings for us in McAllister, and we'd get in the corner, and we would spend literally 3-4 hours back there arguing about insurance and situations. But anyway, on the he was in favor of the exchanges at the beginning, Obamacare, basically Obamacare, and we were, or at least I was, adamantly opposed to it, the exchange system.
Sure,
and,
philosophically opposed.
Yeah,
I mean, really.
And literally, so not just philosophically, but just I was opposed to it and let him know it. But anyway, so the thing about it is on health insurance, then when John Doak, prior to that, when John Doak was the insurance commissioner, in fact, the first time he ever ran, he decided one of his ads was that he's going to stop Obamacare, and and people bought it. They bought all this. Of course they did. That was the central theme. And John and I, we're friends now, and I think he's a good guy. We get along real well. I told him, I said, John, it's BS. You have no say. Yeah,
but Phone Holland says it sells.
You have no say on Obamacare or the exchanges because it's a federal thing, not to state. And you have nothing to say. You're against it. I'm against it. We're all against it. But we have no authority other than the ballot box and getting rid of it.
Yeah.
But
bully pulpit at best.
Yeah, exactly. So, but now, would you let the people know about the state of that now? Because, and here's one of the things that initially a lot of people bought into it, that it made our insurance rates low, but that's because the federal government was subsidizing, to like 90%. I think it started out at 90% of it was to keep the rates low. So, and that expired, in 25? I think it turned 25.
They had to do something to make Barack look good.
Yeah. Yeah, like makeup on a pig. But anyway, so where are we now? Where are we currently on all of that?
So currently, Commissioner Mulready's in the process of standing up the Oklahoma Health Insurance Exchange.
Standing up.
Creating
forming
a state version.
Yeah, setting all of that up. He was authorized by the legislature to do so, I think in 2024 or 5, and has been in the process of doing that in these latter days of his term as insurance commissioner. And, theoretically, this is going to get us away from healthcare.gov at the federal level. One of my concerns throughout any type of exchange process that a state or a governmental agency administers is, where's the agent?
Right.
Where is the local face and trusted advisor to the consumer who's trying to make heads or tails of a very complex and misunderstood system? And how are we going to incorporate that wealth of experience and expertise into this process for the betterment of the consumer? And I'm confident that that's been heard. We'll see what that ultimately looks like in January of 2027. But frankly, if there's anybody in the state of Oklahoma that I trust to set up something like a health insurance exchange, it is Glenn Mulready.
That's kind of his expertise.
It's where he comes from. It's what he's lived and breathed his entire career. We couldn't ask for a better person to shepherd that process.
Kiss up.
We disagree on a lot of things. Okay. I'm going to give the man his flowers where he's due his flowers.
We're friends. He's a great guy.
I know.
We used to go to church together.
I know. Yeah, he walked right into that.
I did. I did. And I've said that multiple times.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of that.
Okay.
We've got other issues in the health insurance space as well. The No Surprises Act was a very well-intentioned and very well-named piece of legislation at the federal level, but what we're seeing now is
surprises.
Really, a lot of surprises. It created a mechanism for, instead of a lot of claims that are being sent to these arbitrators, they estimated at the federal level we'd only have 17,000 or so disputed claims that would have to go through this arbitration process. It's more like 2.6 million at a cost of $600 on average per arbitration. So we've created a $1.56 trillion industry in this arbitration model that is ultimately, the cost is ultimately borne by the plans, by the employers that are putting these employee benefit plans in place. And you're seeing costs go up at an even higher pace than they already were. We were already trying to deal with fighting the pharmacy spend in health insurance because pharmaceutical spending is a driving cost. Now we've got this arbitration piece of it as well, and disputed medical claims. I think we're going to have to close that back door through some form of a cap system for those medical claims. Maybe it's 2 times, 3 times the Medicare rate for a given procedure or something along those lines. Because right now it's wild. It's Wild West.
I got to say, there was always this Tea Party move of we're going to repeal Obamacare. Trump gets elected and he gets stood up by John McCain and a few other rhinos. And as soon as Trump throws in the towel and says, you know what, I'm moving over to tax policy, I'm done with this. That's when the impetus in Oklahoma happened to expand Medicaid.
Yes.
And I talked to actually John Jordan and Jim Jordan, I'm sorry, and Kevin Hearn about it. They were both here in town. And I said, look, we've got a state question here. It's going to make a constitutional amendment. And it's largely because we're seeing all that money going to other states. Yeah. And we're not doing anything for the poor folk here. And is there anything going to happen, change? And Jim Jordan says, I don't see anything happening. And, Kevin says, so we end up passing it here so that we would get the same kind of help that we turned down, that other states are getting. Now, the healthcare.gov, the federal exchange, which I went to because I'm self-employed.
Right.
The funny thing about that is how poorly is written. It wasn't a sliding scale that slopes down to nothing. There's a cliff it went in. If you make $5 more than the poverty rate for your family, you almost get free health care through healthcare.gov. Yeah. If you find out you make $10 less than that, now you're below. Now they want all of those subsidies back. And we're talking tens of thousands of dollars in many households. And so there's a cliff at that end. And same at the upper end. You might be 55 and, making, say, $60,000. You might be getting half of it paid, but you make $10 more. You go from half of it to none of it paid. They put a cliff at both ends.
Sure.
And that's just bad government.
Right. But the whole issue I was trying to get at in the beginning is that the insurance commissioner essentially has no authority over any of that.
He's got the problems to deal with, though, that are created by the federal government.
Yeah, true. And it's kind of sad because I remember we used to have Sooner Care.
Yep.
And which was essentially a low premium coverage.
It's the state Medicaid.
The state
Medicaid,
state Medicaid.
Or were you talking about Insure Oklahoma?
I mean, Insure Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Thank you. Insure Oklahoma.
Still have that too.
We do, but
Well, it got limited by Sebelius to below poverty rate because it used to go up
Right.
to 3 times the poverty rate.
right, because I remember
I had it.
I remember writing a lot of people into that because it was very affordable and it was good. And
It's fantastic.
it worked for the state. The state wasn't really, I mean, they might have lost some money, but it wasn't like we're losing now,
Right.
And the hospitals either. And the other thing that I have a real issue with is this thing of, and what happened, what made me realize it, I had these clients, younger couple. And so one night after a soccer game, in the soccer game, my son got kicked in the head and across his eye. And so we thought it'd be okay. Well, like 10 o'clock at night, 11, he was in pain and so forth. And, and we're worried, we want to be sure to have him checked out. So we take him to ER, St. Francis ER. So we got there probably at 1 a.m. by the time everything, we decided to do it and got in the car. It's 1 a.m. We go in there. And as I'm walking through, a couple of my property and auto insureds, people that are insured on that, they're sitting there with their kid. And I said, wow, okay. And so the next week I talked to him about something. I says, so we saw you guys there. Yeah, what happened? Oh, he just had a cold or something was going on, but we don't have insurance. So we went to the emergency room. And yeah, exactly. I see your face. Yeah. And so we go to emergency because they have to take you, insurance or no insurance, whether you can pay or not.
Right.
And so I'm just thinking, is there anything that can be done about that? Because that is one of the and it's multiplied to the nth degree with the illegal immigrants that have poured in, and they now receive their free health care. They just go and clutter up the ERs in our hospitals and delay, the time you're being seen. If you do get admitted, you've got gurneys all through the halls because they don't have rooms. So you've got, I know this because of my mother. We took her in one night and had it. My wife took her at 10 a.m. By the time they saw her, they put her on one of these beds or these gurneys and had her in the hall until like 3 o'clock in the morning before they could get her a room. So there's a real crisis there. And I mean, I know the problem is you really don't have anything that you can do about that. I don't think. Is there? Because it's so much of healthcare is a federal issue, not a state.
In the healthcare system, it's the tail wagging the dog. That's how I've always thought of it. It's a federally driven set of regulations and compliance measures to have to deal with. And I think as the insurance commissioner, the best we can do right now is provide support to consumers in the state of Oklahoma through the exchange, through good guidance and good advice, again, through some kind of a trusted advisor. And I believe that's an independent agent or an insurance agent, not a call center or a hotline or something along those lines. But beyond that, we're also going to do what we can to try and support access to healthcare in rural settings, in rural parts of our state.
How do you do that? How is your office involved in that?
Hospitals and healthcare providers are interesting with their relationship to insurance. It represents both an income and an expense on their statements. I mean, obviously they bill insurance providers, and some of them in Tulsa metro area own insurance companies such as Community Care. There's a lot of interaction there, but what we've seen a lot of on the expense side of it, which is where my world plays most closely, is there's got to be a more competitive marketplace and more support for them to decrease some of their insurance costs on the expense side, because that's a driving force in their profitability, and it's causing rural hospitals to struggle more and close at a faster rate than we've ever seen.
Here's my pushback on a little bit of that.
Sure.
I mean, we all want to see everybody get health care no matter where they live, no doubt. But what I will not support is subsidizing the family who lives in Broken Arrow to help pay for the family who lives in Broken Bow.
Right.
It's we did this with the 911 deal and watched our phone taxes triple because Tulsa built out their 911 without any state help. Oklahoma City did. And then they assessed every cell phone. It used to be 25 cents. And then Josh Cockcroft tripled it to help fill in rural Oklahoma's 911.
Right.
When 2/3 of the phones that were being taxed were metropolitan phones.
Right.
And I'm saying this kind of thing happens. The second thing I'm concerned about is when we do these initiatives for rural health care, the people who really get the money is the OU School of Medicine and the OSU School of Medicine. They say, oh, we'll take care of it for you. And I don't see people holding them accountable to see that they're really doing that.
I'll tell you where I'm seeing more success.
Mm-hmm.
We've all got plenty of failures in the state to look at, but let's talk about the successes. I think what particular tribes are doing right now relative to healthcare in their jurisdictions and their geographic areas has been phenomenal. And I'm very supportive of, and I'm grateful, frankly, that they're doing it because they're providing services and resources in a vacuum, in a desert.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think we could see expand. And I hope that they continue to go down that path and chart that course. Your issue about subsidizing rural healthcare with metropolitan healthcare dollars, if we don't support the rural healthcare systems, you're going to wind up doing it anyway because they'll be acquired by the larger health systems.
Why would they do that? If it's a bad investment, why would they?
I don't know why they would, but they've been doing it for many years. I mean, obviously Integris and St. Francis.
Well, they wouldn't do it if it wasn't. Eddie just did the thing that said, if there's money in it, they'll do it.
Well, there's an asset there.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a physical plant asset. There's equipment. There's
the better way
to the docks,
to the extent we can, is maybe look at the kind of regulations we put on everybody and see if, the local pediatrician who retired down to Antlers, Oklahoma, maybe we can make it a little easier for him to keep practicing.
Sure.
And that may involve the health department, the Oklahoma Medical Association, and maybe a task force is needed. Yeah. The other thing I want to ask you, who regulates or who would take an initiative legislatively? Is the Commerce Department, when you've got an issue where you say insurance needs some statutory help here?
Sure.
Who did Glenn go to? Because Glenn was part of that.
Oh, sure.
World.
Yeah, he was definitely in the legislature, and his track record there benefited him to a degree. We've certainly got great relationships with the movers and the shakers in both the House and the Senate relative to insurance legislation. And obviously on the Senate side, you've got Aaron Reinhardt from here in Tulsa, South Tulsa, Jenks area. He and I have virtually the same sort of career path.
Yeah.
We've been in the industry the same time. I used to underwrite for him.
But if you're really going to be successful, it's going to take working together with those legislative counterparts.
Absolutely. And certainly on the House, Representative Snead chairs the insurance committee right now on the House side. We had great conversations with him. He's been very receptive.
What committee
to a lot of
is
these
that?
ideas. In the House side, it's the insurance and financial services.
Okay. I don't know why they don't list it on here.
Yeah. But Representative Chris Snead out of Muskogee chairs that committee currently. And obviously Stacey Jo Adams from down in Duncan, she's an independent, she's an agent herself in the House, and she helped co-author some of the legislation reforming our rate filing system. So
Yeah.
I think there's now more than ever some fantastic legislators with good insurance minds in our state government.
Yeah, and real world history that they draw from.
I mean, even in my opinion, soon to be representative again, Sheila Dills out of Jinx, her late husband Joey was a giant in the commercial insurance space. Was probably one of the brightest and most intelligent oil and gas insurance professionals I've ever known. And you don't stay wed to that kind of a person for very long without absorbing. She's got a tremendous acumen for the insurance space. And obviously her father, Jack Luganbuehl, owned and operated funeral homes up in Veneta for many years, which he had to be licensed by the insurance department to sell those final expense pieces. Yeah, actually, I'm from Veneta, mom's side of the family.
That's right.
So
you were born with Oklahoma values, but you're born in Oklahoma.
I was born at Hillcrest here in Tulsa and grew up at Grand Lake. And I've lived in, obviously, Cleora, Grand Lake, Veneta High School, Muskogee when I went to Bacone for a year, and Oklahoma State University in Stillwater, and here in Tulsa, and now Inola, most infamous little town in.
So now let me ask you: your insurance license is Oklahoma, correct?
It is. I have a resident license from the state of Oklahoma.
Not a. What do they call them? The licenses you can get in other states.
Non-resident
license.
I have non-resident licenses, but they're for other states.
Right. Yeah, but you're actually an insurance, Oklahoma insurance guy.
You know what? That's got to help you being able to compare state to state.
It does. It absolutely does. I mean, early in my career, underwriting, Oklahoma and Arkansas agents and seeing business come in from both states and literally 1 week writing policies on both sides of the border, West Siloam Springs, Colcord area, and Siloam Springs, Arkansas, and seeing the significant rate discrepancy between very similar properties, very similar buildings. Obviously, geographically, you could throw a hat over the two of them. Yeah. and seeing that the Arkansas property was 50% less than the Oklahoma property, same deductible, same
Kansas rates are.
Kansas rates do the same thing. But that having seen the industry through multiple states, having operated there, seeing the differences in litigation environments, the litigation topic seems to keep getting brought up in this conversation. I've operated in some of the most heavily litigious states. You mentioned Florida, and Georgia for that matter, and seeing how they handle their business and what that does to your insurance costs in the commercial liability space. It's very different from homeowners, but Oklahoma's, I think right now we're the 14th best state from a litigation perspective in the country. I mean, we're not the best, but we're certainly not the legal hellholes of Illinois, New York, and California either. So
there is a separate kind of state agency that just deals with workers' comp, right?
Yeah, the Workers' Comp Commission.
But do they answer to the Commissioner of Insurance?
No, it's a bit more separate. There's a lot of collaboration that goes on there.
And the Oklahoma Healthcare Authority.
Do
they answer to the Commissioner of Insurance? No,
the Healthcare Authority is an appointed position.
Yeah.
And same with the Workers' Comp Commission.
So you're really I've just named 3 different people that handle insurance and providing for care, particularly in healthcare. And it's interesting. The Department of Labor has a little bit to do with it too when it comes to workers' comp enforcement and all of those things. So it's you got to be a team player.
You definitely do, and it's again, I think it's just the right time for us to come into this role because we've got great relationships with all of those agencies. Operating in the senior living space like I have for so many years, we're certainly no stranger to the players at the Healthcare Authority because we advocate for our clients in that space with them frequently. And obviously DOL with their OSHA and state
Department of Labor for
again,
that's right.
Acronym heavy. I appreciate it.
I just want to be sure.
Translate for the people at home. And certainly had a lot of colleagues and a lot of good friends.
You don't get there by living in a condo in Hot Springs, Arkansas, like your opponent's been doing, and voting in Arkansas elections, like your opponent's been doing lately. So I went there.
He had to go there. He had to go there.
Talk about grace. He's biting. No, he's not biting his tongue. He's grinning. But,
no, one thing I do have to say, and this I appreciate more and more, especially we talked off the air earlier about how contentious the whole gubernatorial race is. And to your credit, that, and I've always felt this way. It's about you. We want to elect you because of who you are, what you bring to the table, not what you can bring against the other person. And this is the thing that I just drives me nuts.
I'm the one throwing mud, no doubt.
After he's gone, you can throw all the mud you want. But let's not drag him through the mud to get.
I'm listening.
I do want to say this, and Eddie, you may remember this. Famously, Pat Campbell, when he was on KFAQ one day, he talked to Terry Simonson. And it was about something where we were waiting on the Oklahoma Supreme Court to make a ruling on something that clearly to Pat and most of his listeners, it was a no-brainer. And Terry Simonson says, Pat, the Constitution says whatever the Supreme Court says that it says. And as much as I hated to hear that,
it's true.
Terry said, yeah, it's true. If they don't believe it says it, they're going to rule, and they have supreme authority. And so, there is the spirit of what's written in our Constitution. When it says you got to be an Oklahoman, I don't want to hear these, I kept my, voter registration
Dave,
here.
Can we table that until we allow our guests to leave?
All right.
And then you can talk about all you want. We'll just talking to.
Stay tuned, folks.
He's hard to get.
But I will agree with you. All of my interactions with you and Marty, you're two fine men who've run a high road campaign.
Yep.
The media has done its job in holding accountable where need be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's been a pleasure, honestly, to travel the state and get to spend some time with Marty Quinn and his wife. Wonderful human beings. I had a torn Achilles back in January and February of this year. And of all of my competitors, Marty held the door. Marty offered to carry things for me. He's a gentleman. I have tremendous respect for him, and I pray for him. He's a great man, and I'm grateful that he's in this race. And I'm glad that if it's got to be two of us button heads, I want to keep this about the issues.
His parents should. I'll say one more thing, Mom. His parents should be proud of him.
Correct. He
went back to Arkansas to take care of them.
Absolutely.
Or at least that's what I read.
I believe it was his wife's family.
Okay. Yeah. Fair point.
Yeah, but he's taking care of his mother right now.
Okay.
So at any rate, but yeah, keeping this about the subject of how we're going to fix insurance, I think we're going to win this race and win this election based on the plan that we're putting forward, because it's got the data behind it. It's going to improve the risk characteristics of Oklahoma, and it's going to bring down costs and ensure affordability for our state citizens and policyholders. And that's the point of this, right? To be that advocate and that watchdog for the consumers. And I wouldn't be running in this race if I didn't think I was the best person for that task.
Well, you saved me. That is exactly where I wanted to go. Give you an opportunity to give a closing argument or closing statement, and I appreciate that. If there's anything more you want to say to our audience,
absolutely. I'm grateful for this platform. Thank you, gentlemen, both. Again, it's always an honor to share the air with you, but you can find out more about the campaign at votebobsullivan.com. You can see the plan at votebobsullivan.com/plan. It's in magazine format. Unfortunately, it's got photos of me in it too. So apologies in advance for the eye strain.
Do you balance it out with your wife and kids?
Yes, I do.
There you go.
That's the only way to make this work.
Yeah.
Got to put the pretties in with this ugly. So I appreciate you, gentlemen, but would appreciate your vote on August 25th in the upcoming runoff. And we're going to make insurance fair again for Oklahomans.
Wonderful.
God help you do it.
Well, Bob, hey, thanks so much again for coming in, and good luck to you. And about a month from now, we'll
yes,
know.
Month from today.
Yeah. All right, God bless and take care. Okay.
You as well.
All right.